Here's my guide to welding a crack in a kayak, and the things that you're going to need are a heat gun. You can get these from a DIY store, and the same with the drill. You don't need to spend a lot of money on these. A multi-tool screwdriver, really handy for getting bolts and screws out the boat. A putty knife as well, this is just to help you move the plastic around, and one of these triangle scrapers. First thing to do is take the outfitting out the boat. Gives you room to work. You can do this with that multi-tool screwdriver that I showed you. Then take your drill and drill both ends of the crack. This stops the crack spreading further and also gives you somewhere to start the weld. Now take the triangular scraper and run it down the split. The shape of the scraper will give you the V-groove that you want to put in the split. If you haven't got one, just use your river knife and just hold it at an angle and run it down either side. You need to remove enough plastic just to separate either side of the split. If you've already got welding rods, then you don't need to do this next stage. If you haven't, you're going to have to take some plastic from the back of the cockpit. So flip the boat over and using the heat gun, heat up the area that I'm showing you there. You'll need the putty knife as well to slice off your welding rod. You can get the welding rods from the manufacturer of the kayak or your local supplier. Try and make sure it comes from the same manufacturer that the kayaks are, just so you get a better material match. You'll notice the plastic starts turning shiny. This is an indicator that you're getting up to temperature, and you want to start to push the putty knife into the plastic. Don't go too far and go quite slow because it's quite easy to sort of get carried away. And you want to take off about a 5mm strip and make it quite long. You want it to be a good couple of inches longer than the weld. Obviously depending on how big the weld is. Say for a 3-inch weld you want 4 inches of plastic. In this case I've got about a 12-inch weld, so I'm going to be using probably nearer 15 to 16 inches of plastic. Once you get to the end of the strip, you want to just cut in and peel it off. Be careful, it will be really hot and it takes ages to cool down with the plastic, so yeah, bear that in mind. There's some gloves. I'm taking off quite a bit for this weld because the crack's actually about 12 inches long. You wouldn't normally need to take that much off. I'm just taking another bit off here just so I've got enough. So there's all the plastic. Next stage is going to be the weld. If you've got some mole grips or pliers, it makes this stage a bit easier just to grip the plastic with. Take your heat gun and heat the split up till it goes shiny again. Then you want to start heating up the end of the welding rod and poke it in the hole that you drilled at the end of the split. Once it starts heating up and going soft, you want to twist it so it merges into the plastic of the boat. Once it starts to mix, you want to then start pushing it down the crack, still turning it and twisting. This draws the plastic in from either side of the crack, and which is what welds the boat together. When you've got quite a long split in the boat, it makes it quite a bit harder as the boat deforms quite a lot when you start to heat it up. So if you keep pushing down on the boat, it stops this deformation. Always check inside the boat as well, because you sometimes find loads of plastic starts oozing through. One of the biggest mistakes people do make is getting the boat too hot. If the boat starts to get too hot, then the plastic basically just falls through, and you burn a big hole in the boat and it really makes a mess. Here I'm just attaching the mole grips onto the end of the welding rod. This just makes it a lot easier to twist the plastic round, especially when you start getting to the end of the strip. When you get to the end of a strip, just use the putty knife to get the plastic in the hole, and then you can get your other strip and continue on from where you were. When you push the next strip in, sort of push it into the plastic that you've just finished with to get a good bond. Keep going until you get to the hole at the other end that you drilled. Once you're there, you can just keep twisting the welding rod and it will just separate from the plastic. Now you want to get something flat and ideally metal. I'm using a tiler's trowel there. Just push down on the weld to make sure it returns the boat back to its normal shape, as it tends to bulge out a bit when you're welding with the heat. So I always check inside as well to make sure nothing's coming through and it all looks good on the inside as well. Now I'm just going to patch up a little bit that didn't quite pull together. There we go. Now if you want to, you can add wire mesh to the weld. This improves the strength quite a lot, and it's quite easy to do. All you do is just cut the wire mesh to size, and after you've finished the weld you just push it in, and you have to work it in quite a bit, and yeah, all you do is just push it under the surface of the plastic and it helps tie it all together. It's quite easy to get the mesh. It's usually listed as an insect mesh or a bug mesh to stop bugs getting into houses and things through vents. When you choose the mesh that you're going to use, make sure it's something that won't rust, so a good quality stainless steel, and make sure the mesh is quite fine as well. Once you've finished pushing all the mesh into the plastic, just trim it off with some scissors, and then with about a 40 or 60 grit sanding disc, just dust over it lightly just to work off any edges and sharp bits. I also go round on the inside if there's any bits sticking out, and then round the back of the cockpit as well. And that's it done. All watertight and ready to go back on the river. If you want to read the step-by-step guide, you can go onto my website, which is www.epicstout.com, and you can also find links to getting all the equipment that you'd need to weld a boat there as well.